Good morning, everyone. We've got a very full programme today, so let's get started. So good morning and a very warm welcome to this Inspiring Era online event on turning knowledge into value, European tools and valorisation practices. My name's Helen Garrison and I'm joining you from the non-profit organisation Public and Science Sweden, which is a partner in the Inspiring Era project. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping notices. First of all, the event is being recorded, and after the event you will receive a link to a page on the Inspiring Era website where you'll be able to access all the recording and today's presentations. We also have several opportunities for you to ask questions during the programme, so please post your questions to the speakers using the Q&A facility. And also please keep an eye on the chat as well, where we will be posting useful links and additional information throughout the session. So just a reminder, so it's questions into the Q&A and the chat will be used for sharing links and information. So the topic for today, knowledge valorisation, is very broad and complex concept, but our aim today is for you to leave the session with a better overview of the European tools and support mechanisms that are available and some insights and good practices from different actors within the knowledge valorisation ecosystem. And during the session, we'll be hearing from the European Commission colleagues on the policy framework and available tools, also from practitioners working directly with knowledge valorisation. And later, we'll be bringing these perspectives together in a panel discussion with representatives from across the research and innovation ecosystem. So we have a wealth of expertise joining us today, and we're looking forward to the insights that all our speakers will be able to share with us. Before we move on to the programme, I'd like to briefly introduce the Inspiring Era project, which is organising today's event. So Inspiring Era is a Horizon Europe funded project, and it's working together closely with the European Commission to support the implementation of the European Research Area Policy Agenda. And our role is to help raise awareness of European initiatives and tools and best practices, and to make sure that they reach the people who can benefit from them most directly. Knowledge valorisation is a key topic within the Era Policy Agenda, and we're very pleased to be organising this event together with UAS for Europe, a network representing around 150 European universities of applied sciences. And it's also the action sponsor for the structural policy on knowledge valorisation. Amazingly, we have over 600 people registered to participate today, so I'm sure we'll be getting more registered people joining us throughout the morning. So to make the webinar a little bit more interactive and find out who's in the audience, we're going to be using the Mentimeter tool to gather some quick insights from you right at the start. So you can access Mentimeter either by sharing the QR code, which is going to come up on the screen, or we'll put in there we go. There's the screen, or you can go to menti.com and enter the code on the screen 1322 3395, and also there'll be a link in the chat as well that you can click on directly. So please, yeah, if you'd like to join us, go ahead and start. There's just 4 simple questions for you to answer. Excellent. I will just give people time to log on to that. That's great. And if we go to take a look at the first answers that are coming in. So which country are you working in? So I think there were registrations from 38 different countries, actually, mostly Europe, but a few beyond as well. Lots coming in there. Great. A nice spread. And if we move on to the second question, it asks about which sector you work in. So are you a researcher? Do you work in research support? So this might include roles like research management, technology transfer, innovation support, things like that. We can see a lot in research support, a whole mixture of other people participating as well. Fantastic. Our third question is about your level of familiarity with the concept of knowledge valorisation. So are you completely new to the concept, or are you an expert, or somewhere in the middle? So we have a real spread, don't we? Excellent. And finally, we wanted to ask you what kind of level of support would most strengthen knowledge valorisation in your own context. So what are you lacking? We've got financing. Some no idea. Maybe by the end of today you will. We can take a look at those. Different tools, support for joint efforts, networking, IP rights. Well, so some of those are definitely topics that are coming up today, and hopefully presentations and discussions today will respond to some of those points that have been brought up. We will be downloading all these and sharing these responses with you afterwards. So now it is time, thank you very much everyone for participating in that. So now it's time to move on to our first presentations, and we're going to hear from the European Commission, who are going to set the scene for today's discussions and to tell us about some of the key European tools and resources that support knowledge valorisation. So I am delighted to welcome Sylvia Nemeth, who is Deputy Head of Unit for Knowledge Valorisation and Technology Infrastructures at DG Research and Innovation, who will be followed by Iro Irola, Policy Officer in the same unit. And if you have any questions for them, we can take a few questions right at the end. So again, please post those in the Q&A function, which you'll find at the bottom of your screens during the event. So Sylvia, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Helen. Just to test the microphone, can you hear me well?
Yes, that's totally fine, so we can hear you.
Okay, great. So thank you for the introduction and thank you for the opportunity of being here today. We have prepared this presentation together with Iro, and I will start and then he will take over. I should start probably by saying that we have been also looking forward to this event a lot, and we have put a lot of thoughts in this, and we also look forward to the questions. So the next slide, please. So I would like to walk you through a bit of an overview of the EU policy initiatives around the knowledge valorization. And we have prepared a bit of timeline to kind of walk us through the main steps in the past years. So we need actually knowledge valorization to ensure that the research and innovation results are transformed into solutions that benefit society and the economy. By definition, this includes, of course, transformation of data, know-how, and research results into sustainable products, services, solutions, and knowledge-based policies. Knowledge valorization is there to maximize the social and economic value of publicly funded research and to enable us to take a broader uptake and the use of results. We also see in the past years, and this is of course very much linked to the burst of this policy and the continuation of this, that citizens are very much expect that science should deliver practical answers to major societal challenges. It can be, around climate change, digital transformation. And we have seen this change and try to support this through the European Research and Innovation Framework Program throughout the years. We feel that the role of science is very clear, and also the potential of transdisciplinary work is crucial for supporting some of the new paths around knowledge valorization. So as I said, this has been a strategic priority of the European Union. And in the recent reports, it has been, or major reports, it has been recognized as well that knowledge valorization is a vital mechanism that can drive European innovation, improve market uptake, and enhance the global competitiveness of the EU. The Draghi report, to refer to one of these major reports, highlights that Europe's competitiveness is partly due to insufficient translation of scientific excellence into industrial leadership, and knowledge valorization is essential to ensure strategic autonomy. Another important report was the Letta report that stresses that Europe must unlock the full potential of the single market. And this should include improving the circulation, the scaling, and the commercialization of knowledge placing and knowledge valorization at the heart of a dynamic innovation ecosystem. And of course, we are all in this together, and we would like to take actions together around Europe. We should mention, of course, that in the past years, the European Commission, the Council, and the EU member states together have taken significant steps to promote knowledge valorization as part of the European research area policy. So the guiding principles were adopted as a Council recommendation, and the related codes of practices provided enabling environment and step towards increased value creation. We could take the next slide, please. So these are the documents that I just referred to. We also feel that it is very important to emphasize that knowledge valorization continues to be a cornerstone and a priority area in the ERA policy agenda. Currently, the valid one is for 2025 to 2027, with the focus on upscaling the capacities and activities and building on these guidances delivered in the previous policy cycles. I should stress that we are also in the period of preparing the next research framework program. And the Commission proposal for the framework program 10 have also foreseen as a specific objective knowledge valorization. And this document is under negotiation in the Council for the moment. And I'm also happy to say that this has been recognized also by the member states, this work, and the importance of this and the important linkages it does have to ongoing strategies. I would finish this by mentioning that, of course, we also saw the publication of the Startup and Scale-up Strategy. That is an ambitious package of measures to facilitate bringing research results to the market. This includes simplified tools for licensing, capacity building for technology transfer, and increased collaboration with industry in cutting-edge infrastructure. So we are, of course, very busy and working on the implementation of this activity. And we are also preparing for the future European Innovation Act and the European Research Area Act, and both will play an important role for improving industry-academia cooperation, the management of intellectual assets, and knowledge valorization across the EU. I can reassure you that together with my colleagues in the Commission, we aim to use this landscape, the different tools and the measures that we have for supporting knowledge valorization in the EU, with the aim to listen to the needs of the stakeholders and contribute to European competitiveness and respond to the requests of all these reports and activities that I mentioned too. So I stop there my introduction. I will pass the floor to my colleague Eero, but I also remain here for the questions and answers, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. So Eero, please.
Thank you very much, Sylvia and Helen, for the introduction. I just want to check, can you hear me and do you see me?
Yes, all good.
Very good. Very good. So in the next 15 minutes, I will guide you through the codes of practice, and we will also look at the Knowledge Valorisation Policy Toolbox and what is there also in the Knowledge Valorisation Platform. So here in this slide, you see the EU guidance for knowledge valorization. So as Sylvia mentioned, we have the guiding principles. So they provide a common line on policy principles and measures for improving knowledge valorization. And then we have 4 codes of practice, which provide concrete recommendations for R&I actors on important areas of knowledge valorization, which are intellectual asset management, standardization, industry-academia co-creation, and citizen engagement. And these codes of practice were co-created with stakeholders, mainly through communities of practice, and they were adopted as Commission recommendations in 2 batches in 2023 and 24. So we move to Code of Practice on Intellectual Asset Management. So already the guiding principles introduced a shift, moving from technology-focused knowledge transfer towards a broader approach of knowledge valorization that involves all actors in the research and innovation ecosystem. And the knowledge valorization covers all types of intellectual assets. So not only those that can be protected by formal IP rights, and it introduces this, or it refers to the intellectual assets, which include any results of R&I activities. So from patents and copyrights to data, know-how, prototypes, processes, and practices. So the Code of Practice on Intellectual Asset Management provides guidance on how to successfully approach the various steps of intellectual asset management and how to address the challenges linked to the adequate control and, on the other hand, sufficient leverage of intellectual assets. So the recommendations in the code stress the need for effective organizational strategy with sound decision-making procedures and providing incentives and tools that then help identify intellectual assets in the organization. The code provides guidance on managing intellectual assets in ways that promote openness while protecting value where it is necessary. And then there are elements for joint research activities. The code highlights the importance of clarifying ownership early on, and this is especially valid for collaborative and publicly funded projects. All these, of course, require skills. For example, for identifying assets, understanding IP regimes, and negotiating agreements. So the code encourages organizations to build these capacities systematically. And then finally, when moving results towards the market, the code promotes fit-for-purpose means of control. And then it also offers recommendations on IP evaluation and on establishing effective monitoring, transfer, and licensing practices. Then we move to the Code of Practice on Standardization. So here the objective is to strengthen the link between research and standardization. As you know, standards are very important for innovation. They ensure compatibility and interoperability of different products, and they guarantee essential level of quality, performance, and safety. So the first area of the recommendations in the code focus on higher education institutions and research organizations. They are stressing the need for building the capacities, so developing a standardization policy, integrating standardization into career development, strengthening the training, and then ensuring that technology transfer offices are equipped to support standardization activities. Then the second area provides guidance for project partners. It encourages analyzing the standardization landscape early on, forming a shared strategic position on standard making, and then also involving partners with the right expertise. And then it calls for making standards a tangible part of project planning, defining realistic outputs and indicators. And then the third set of recommendations is for policymakers and standard development organizations. It encourages promoting standardization as a key channel for knowledge valorization, supporting the needs of startups and SMEs, and aligning their services and support schemes with the needs of R&I actors. Then we move to the code on industry-academia co-creation. So here, by focusing on co-creation, we want to emphasize the importance that industry and academia work together from early on, based on their common interest, and that they then jointly produce and valorize knowledge. So the first part of the code focuses on creating enabling environment. It encourages organizations to include co-creation in the strategy of the organization, and then to strengthen the dialogues between industry academia through advisory structures. It also calls for raising awareness of the mutual benefits of co-creation, sharing best practices, exploring common challenges, and involving also citizens in co-creation. Incentives are very important, as well as promoting intersectoral mobility. It also stresses the importance of developing skills, for example, through mentoring, having micro credentials and entrepreneurial trainings. And then it highlights also the value of networking, communication, and digital platforms. Then the second part of the code focuses on managing co-creation effectively. It recommends having a joint partnership framework with shared goals, clear governance framework, and then having a common approach to intellectual assets. It emphasizes also the role of intermediaries, whether they are knowledge and technology transfer offices, innovation hubs, or living labs, and also the need to support them with adequate resources. And the code also encourages partners to plan for valorization early on, identify high potential results, and agree also on the ownership and control of results. It also promotes pooling resources in shared infrastructures and using open innovation platforms to support collaboration. And finally, it calls for assessing outcomes with appropriate metrics, including qualitative indicators and case studies that capture societal impact. Then the fourth code focuses on citizen engagement. Here the purpose is to show the way how to make participatory processes part of how we produce and valorize knowledge. So citizen engagement is essential for ensuring that new technologies, products, and services respond to the needs of the society. This code has a similar structure to the previous one. So the first part focuses on creating enabling environment. It encourages organizations to develop engagement strategies and build capacities. It promotes transdisciplinary collaboration and responsible management of intellectual assets. And it also emphasizes social inclusion, diversity, and gender equality, and it offers guidance on replicating and scaling successful practices. Also, awareness raising, recognition of engagement efforts, and an adequate evaluation framework are key elements here. And then for managing citizen engagement effectively, it calls for defining incentives and also identifying expectations. And then it highlights the importance of strong communication strategies and encourages the use of digital technologies with a human-centric and sustainable design. So then from the codes, we move to the other elements in the presentation. So the Commission supports so-called mutual learning exercises, and these are structured policy learning processes that help EU member states and associated countries to exchange good practices and then jointly address specific policy challenges. So there was an MLE on knowledge valorization that involved 18 countries. The final report of the MLE describes a policy toolbox that could be used to implement national strategies on knowledge valorization. This toolbox includes 4 types of tools. So there are soft tools for awareness raising and skills development, and then tools for incentivizing R&I actors, for example, through performance-based funding and organizing, for example, competitions and prizes for knowledge valorization. And then you have also financial tools such as innovation vouchers and proof of concept funding, and finally a set of regulatory tools such as regulatory sandboxes and innovation procurement. So you have the detailed report available in the link. So then the EU Knowledge Valorisation Platform, this is the central place to get information about the events, news and publications. For example, we will soon publish the final report of a study on metrics and indicators for knowledge valorization. This study reviewed the existing indicators, which come mainly from the knowledge and technology transfer field, and then they identified new indicators that better capture the broader range of value created by R&I activities. And so this study presents a set of 41 indicators. Many of them are still exploratory and require testing, but they can act as inspirational for your work, certainly. So the report will be available in the platform later on in March. We also organize knowledge valorization online talks. The next talk will focus on this metrics and indicators study, and it will be organized in April, date not yet announced. I also want to mention that Horizon Europe current calls include several topics which are specific for knowledge valorization, and they are compiled in this link in the slide. And the final element, that we have a newsletter. So I very much encourage you to subscribe it so that you will be automatically updated about various activities. And the final slide is about the repository of best practices. It continues to grow. It contains now 160 practices that have been submitted by stakeholders. So these include a wide variety of concrete approaches, including tools, methods, and training formats. In the slide, you can see some examples. So there are standardization and IP management tools, co-creation practices, entrepreneurial trainings, open science approaches, and then also some digital platforms that support collaboration and uptake of research results. So thank you very much for the attention, and we will open the floor for questions. Okay.
Thanks very much, Hiro. So yes, we do have time for a couple of questions. I know there was a question, so please post them in the Q&A. We'll see how many we won't be able to answer them all now, but if we perhaps some of our speakers can answer some of them that we don't cover. There was a question about training as well, and I know Manon has put a link in the chat to some training offered by the IP Help Desk. Is there other sort of training on knowledge valorisation that you're aware of, Hiro, Silvia?
Well, actually, we found many coordination and support actions which provide trainings for knowledge valorization, and there is one to be mentioned especially is the EU Efficient. It's coordinated by KU Leuven in Belgium, and they provide trainings for knowledge valorization intermediaries. But I think that Manon will also mention some of the projects which focus on intellectual asset management. And we are actually developing further trainings as part of the current ERA policy agenda. So we have the structural policy on knowledge valorization, and there one work stream is really for improving the knowledge valorization capacities and skills of R&I actors, and we are going to come up with some new activities there. So please follow the Knowledge Valorisation Platform to be updated about the opportunities.
Thank you. And there's also a question regarding, you mentioned the code of practice on citizen engagement. So what the sort of overall objective of that and what that encompasses? The question was about, is it just to raise awareness or motivating business owners for change? Do you want to respond to that question?
Yeah, well, basically, it introduces a strategy to really incorporate this kind of participatory processes in the innovation activities, research and innovation activities, so that you engage with citizens, societal actors early on, and invite them to co-create the solutions. This is to ensure that the new solutions respond to the needs of the citizens and society. So it introduces this kind of very broad strategy how to prepare an enabling environment, and then to manage citizen engagement in an effective way.
Thank you. And then our very first question was about the cost for patent applications and cost for SMEs. Is there anything you'd like to add about that?
Well, this is actually not directly addressing directly the cost of patent applications. So basically, this is a little bit out of the remit of this work.
Right. Thank you very much. We need to move on now in the programme, but if we can answer other questions as we go along, we will try to in the Q&A. So thank you very much to Hiro and Silvia. And now we are going to move on to hear about knowledge valorisation in practice. And our first speaker is Manon Prada from the European IP Help Desk, who will talk about the ways, challenges and opportunities of IP management. So Manon, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Helen, and good morning, everybody. Let me share my presentation before I start. Okay, just 1 second. I need to switch those screens. Right, so Helen, could you give me a heads up if you see the presentation in full presenter mode?
Yes, that's all looking good.
Great. Thank you very much. So good morning, everybody. My name is Manon Prado. I represent indeed the European IP Help Desk today. Many thanks to the Inspire ERA team for having me today in this discussion. I will touch upon the ways, challenges, and opportunities of IP management, and I will outline how IP is a strategic enabler of knowledge valorization. So before going into the topic, I would like to briefly introduce the European IP Help Desk. So we are a first-line intellectual property service providing free of charge support to help European SMEs and beneficiaries of EU-funded research projects manage their IP in cross-border business or EU-funded research and innovation activities. So we offer a broad range of services and informative material. You can see an outline here on my slide. We have a helpline where you can reach out, which you can reach out to get personalized IP support. We offer a broad range of trainings. I've included that in the chat, and there will be links at the end of my presentation so you can explore a little bit further. We also have a lot of publications and guides. So we try to keep them practical and actionable so that the reader can take the learnings and apply them. And we also have more inspiring contents such as case studies. I will present one of them later. And also bulletins, which explore a little bit more in depth some topics linked to IP management. I would also outline our ambassadors network. So this is a collaboration with the Enterprise Europe Network. We have 43 ambassadors across 26 EU countries. I would also show you this slide that touches upon the geographical coverage. So here I am presenting the European IP Help Desk. So the coverage is Europe, but the European Commission also funds help desks at international level. We have one in China, India, Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So important here to keep in mind that that there is quite a lot here, and that the European IP Help Desk is a service of the European Commission. So now, what will I touch upon here? I have only 15 minutes. I've noted that here at the very beginning of this event, I saw that a lot of elements that people would like to hear about concern IP. Bear with me, I'll try to cover as much as I can, but there is opportunity to further explore later on. So first, we'll touch upon why IP matters in knowledge valorization. I'll try to follow on what Sylvia and Edo presented. We will also touch upon challenges and opportunities linked to IP management. We will try to illustrate this with practical examples, and we'll see some emerging intellectual asset management approaches. And finally, I'll try to wrap this up by saying what the European IP Help Desk can help with when it comes to IP and knowledge valorization. So let's dive in. First, why does IP matter for knowledge valorization? We've heard it from Edo, but I would like to repeat it because it's very important. IP goes beyond formal intellectual property rights. So there is a lot more there, a lot more assets to leverage. We are speaking about data, about software, about prototypes, about many elements that enter into this category and that all organizations have. So IP reduces uncertainty in partnerships. What do I mean? I mean that addressing commercial and legal elements early on help smoothen processes, smoothen partnerships, and eventually secure faster deals. This is a fact. Then IP enables fair sharing in industry-academia partnership. So we see that fair sharing, securing returns by defining background, so background IP that comes into a partnership, into a co-creation endeavor, also outlining the results, who will own them, and what will be the revenues flows. This is a very important element when it comes to knowledge valorization. It increases the chances for impact. IP also unlocks funding and investor confidence. So we see that leveraging IP assets and demonstrating those assets fosters investor trust. So very important element here. And finally, I would also outline that IP creates impact options. What do I mean here is that there are different ways to impact, and you can choose the tools to pave this way. You can go for different types of licensing models. You can go for spin-off creation. You can also go for open access models. You can tailor a little bit to the outputs that you have from your research. So just to put it in a nutshell here, IP structures collaboration and reduces risk. So that's what we should keep in mind here. So now we've heard about how knowledge valorization created, or the new policies from the European Commission have created a paradigm shift. And here I would insist on this core shift that we have seen from our perspective here, focusing on the IP. So we've seen the shift from IP protection, let's say the more traditional approach, what I call here on this slide IP 1.0, to intellectual asset management, the more strategic approach to it, and what I call here IP 2.0. So what I mean here is that in the more traditional approach, you would focus on reactive and most likely post-research action. You would most likely also focus on patent rights and copyright, not so much on leveraging other assets, which also have their value. It would often be TTO-led, so led by the Technology Transfer Office, an isolated responsibility, not necessarily put in the frame of a broader strategy, which would result in a fragmented implementation and more case by case instead of comprehensive. And that's what's changing in this IP 2.0, so more strategic intellectual asset management. We have proactivity. We try to embed this in a strategy which aligns to the mission and to the goals of organizations. We look at a portfolio of elements of assets that include indeed IP rights, but also touches upon data, covers know-how, software, etc. It becomes a leadership and governance issue, a strategic element, and not only a task of the Technology Transfer Office. And it is supported ideally by internal templates and strategic licensing models, elements that will smoothen the rollout of this strategy and make it easy for researchers and for staff to apply. But let's touch upon IP challenges that we see in knowledge valorization so that we can later on go back to the opportunities. There are two types of challenges that we could outline here. Some are more structural, some are more cultural. I won't expand too much on those because they are well covered, but I would like to mention that all these challenges are tackled in the codes of practice that Ido presented to us. However, it takes time to create long-term systemic change across a whole continent. So the European IP Help Desk, with different formats, services, publications, tries to support as much as possible this structural policy of the Commission and tries to bring its force to supporting the upscaling and the capacity building when it comes to intellectual property for knowledge valorization to overcome those challenges. There are a couple more of challenges which are linked to widening countries, and here I just wanted to outline this here because the IP Help Desk has also multiplied efforts to reach widening countries' audience and to build capacity on IP in those ecosystems where we see some challenges linked to, for example, the sustainability of the knowledge or technology transfer offices, some capacity gaps, and so on. So inspired from the European Commission's awareness raising campaign on knowledge valorization sessions, and we've started what we call the EU 13 Roadshow. You can see the visual here on this slide. The idea was to increase engagement in the region, and here on this slide you can see all the stops, unfortunately, but one more event happened, for example, last month in Poland. So this is something that I would like to mention here because those gaps, they can be bridged. And we try to raise awareness here about strategic intellectual asset management to bridge those gaps. So enough about the challenges. Now let's see about the opportunities. Of course, ideally, you would have for an organization a fully fledged intellectual asset management strategy, which would be shaped around the recommendations of the European Commission, as we've seen before, but even small changes at organizational level can help and dramatically increase the valorization potential of research outputs. Even just a template or an early IP portfolio check can help boost a little bit things on this side. So I put a few hints on this slide on where to invest some strategic thinking. Can be about licensing practices, about portfolio mapping, about supporting formats and templates for researchers, for staff, to ease the collaborations, to speed up deals where needed. So here to keep in mind that from our experience, we are also seeing things changing. So this change is happening, this paradigm shift. It's happening on the ground. Policies are shaping up strategically. New positions are being introduced, for example, in knowledge transfer offices. So it is happening. It just depends on, in terms of scale, on type of organization and also ecosystem performance. And yeah, it is a gradual process. So I would like to bring to your attention a couple of examples, just to illustrate a little bit what I've said now. I would like to start with the first example, which is about the impact licensing initiative. So here we are talking about those innovative licensing approaches that I've mentioned before. So what is it? It's an innovative licensing practice which consists of reusing and repurposing intellectual assets for the benefit of society, but without compromising economic returns. So it goes beyond societal impact to create incentives for technology holders to explore new markets. And why does it matter? Because many technologies that could help achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals remain underused, and especially in low and middle income countries. So impact licensing ensures beneficial technologies aren't stuck on the shelf, you could say, because of commercial risk or lack of market pathways. It builds a bridge between IP strategy and societal impact missions. So how does it work? The project is bringing a lot of materials and guidance to help the uptake of these innovative licensing practices. It also has intermediary networks with a community of practice and a network of clearinghouses to help a bit boost this uptake. And also it has some model licenses, so to address all the elements that should be addressed there. So we're talking about the how, the who, where, for what purpose, how long does the license keep how long is the license for, under what conditions technology can be used, this type of elements. So here the result is that impact licensing offers a systemic licensing practice that bridges innovation with societal use. So this is the way to find a balance between economic returns and societal impact. With that, I would move to my second example so that I can also keep within my allocated time. This is an example of coming from a case study of the European IP Help Desk, and it's about the EU-backed startup called .lumen. So here it's an example of IP enabling social innovation. So what is it? .lumen is a Romanian deep tech startup addressing mobility challenges for roughly the 340 million visually impaired people worldwide. So it is definitely addressing a societal issue. And .lumen developed a AI-powered smart glasses replicating the function of a guide dog. So far, mostly visually impaired people would rely on the cane and on the guide dog. And they found here a super innovative solution with a wearable technology based on AI. So the technology has been validated with over 300 users in nearly 30 countries. So there is a shift to proactive autonomy for those users. And why does it matter? Because for assistive technologies in this field, you need to have credibility and defensibility. This is essential to have a market share and to scale. So .lumen embedded its IP strategy from the very beginning, from the idea stage already. And they managed to build trust with investors, with regulators, and with partners thanks to that, because deep tech and AI is a field where things move very, very quickly. So with their strong IP, they could scale globally and ensure long-term sustainability. They built their IP strategy around 3 axes. So the first axis was the early IP mapping. They conducted extensive prior art analysis, and they noticed that there is a lot already covered, but when it comes to wearable, they had an opportunity. So they took it. And this brings us to the second axis of their strategy, which is their dual protection strategy. So they have a mix of patenting for the key foundation technology and trade secrets for what covers algorithms, data sets, confidential know-how, because of how quick deep tech develops. And the third axis is very important too, is the strategic geographical filing. So they have first filed in the EU, and then they extended via the Patent Cooperation Treaty route to over 70 jurisdictions, so including the US and some strategic hubs. So here, this brings us to the result, which is that Dotlumen was the first Romanian startup selected for the EIC Accelerator. Their IP portfolio was really key in this evaluation and to bring investor confidence, and it also enabled them to have in-house R&D power and to foster a faster product iteration. So this is another example of how IP can enable scale, gain credibility, and achieve societal impact. And I will just run very quickly through the last slides on how the European IP Helpdesk can support knowledge valorization. Here, I won't expand on these formats, which I've presented before, but just to say that we take every opportunity to feedback our experience, to inform policies, and to help develop new trainings and to support knowledge valorization. We have a lot of online trainings for various audiences, so it ranges from basic to intermediate to expert level, and we cover a broad range of elements there. We offered webinars tailored to place IP management in the knowledge valorization context, and those are recurring webinars. And we also have trainings in collaboration with different organizations, for example, the European Patent Office. And here, just to wrap it up, so it was a lot to cover in 15 minutes again, but maybe the key takeaways I would like to leave you with is that you need to reflect on IP early. You need to strategically think about it from the very beginning of your research project, of your partnership with industry, any kind of endeavor. You need to think about IP early. You need to make it a leadership issue, a governance issue, and you need to bring also supporting elements to roll out your strategy, be it templates, be it webinars, anything. It's very important to bring action to the idea. And I leave you with some links, but that you can explore a little later. And thank you very much for your attention. I leave the floor now for the next presentation.
Thank you very much, Manon. So now we're heading to Switzerland, and I'm delighted to welcome Professor Emanuele Caponzano, Director of Research, Development and Knowledge Transfer at the University of Applied Sciences and Arts of Southern Switzerland, who will share some insights into industry-academia cooperation. So Emanuele, over to you. Thank you.
Yes, I'm pleased to meet you. I'm just sharing the screen. Can you confirm, Ellen, that you see the presentation?
All good, yes, looking good, thank you.
Suitable format, perfect. So what I will try to do very fastly is to show how we do this in practice as a University of Applied Sciences. Not much data, just to tell you more or less how big we are. We're active in southern Switzerland. We have about 40 different research units, which are mainly institutes and competence centers. We have about 650 researchers, which are every day active on about 400 projects, and our annual budget for research the last year was 55 million Swiss francs, which means that we have usually 1.5 researcher working on a project. And we usually have projects which are built one-to-one with a single company, and our main objective is to support them in their innovation processes. So this is a little bit the way we are used to work, and actually we have also to work according to the Swiss regulations and mandates. Our main role is to be active at applied research and technology transfer activities. So moving through the different TRL levels, we work mostly between 4 and 7, which means that we try to support the companies, mainly SMEs, in innovating their products and processes and also their business opportunities, knowing that they often have to work with limited resources, times, and also skills. So we try to be complementary and to support them through the different steps. To do this, usually we have direct mandates, so we are paid from the companies, but we can also apply for some specific funding instruments at federal and regional level, besides, of course, the European funds. So we always try to understand which is the best way also to get some funding. But most of the cases, we are directly paid by the companies. How do we face the challenge? To be very concrete, usually we have some first brainstorming meeting. We try to have a couple of meetings to identify the research challenges and the bottlenecks which have to be faced, and this usually happens in a very short time. Then we perform a feasibility study, which is done in a few weeks, and usually we are paid for it. So maybe the company pays directly for it, or we can have some voucher from InnoSwiss. After this, we perform a proof of concept, which requires 2-3 months, and then we go for the real applied research project, which may last between 12 and 24 months. During the proof of concept, usually we also clarify the TRL levels we have to work on, and we also clarify all the related IP issues, which usually we try to fix at most within the first 2-3 months of a research project. It means we define which are all the IP issues we are planning to address, and also we sign already the IP contracts before we really run the whole project. So we try to do it very early, as was just suggested by the previous speaker. I have a few examples of projects. Maybe I can also share some more information about we managed some IP aspects there. Not for all of them, of course. So these are examples of projects we developed with companies, also highlighting the different TRL levels we worked on. So for example, this was one with a company where we worked on the evaluation of a new photocatalytic treatment to improve the performance of shutters and blinders. The result was to support the development of a new multifunctional shading system to improve energy efficiency and the comfort in buildings, and to reduce consumptions and maintenance operations. So a very clear, focused objective, and also, as far as possible, clear result and impact. This is another example working with the die and mold industries. In this case, the objective was to support the industries in assessing the overall sustainability of their products and developing a platform to assess and improve the sustainability of a company processes and products. And the impact was to increase the competitiveness by reducing the environmental impact, and also by promoting the sustainable industrial practices in the companies, and also, of course, in the interaction with their customers. Another example, I just choose a few of them, trying to be a little bit different. This was for a pen producing company, actually. The objective was to provide tools to measure and reduce the greenhouse gas emissions throughout the whole life cycle of the product and also of the organization. The result was a life cycle analysis model and a carbon footprint tool, which was available and usable for the company and which supported better decision making to reduce the emissions and drive sustainable innovation in the company, and also in properly communicating all of this to its customers at a larger scale. Another example, completely different field, this was a pharmaceutical company working on particle micronization processes. In this case, the objective were a little bit more technical, so create the fluid dynamic models of a spiral jet milling process to assess the model limitations for large-scale systems and long-duration operations, and to design guidelines to minimize the experimental trials. The results were a complete computational simulation model to examine the early classification stages and the computational limits, to create a finite volume model to analyze the process at industrial scale, and to guarantee a better understanding of particle classification and micronization, and to improve and shorter the development times, and to reduce the costs of a micronization process in the pharmaceutical sector. Another, again, different example in this case was a project using AI-driven cost prediction models for drug compounds, so as to leverage the chemical complexity and to streamline the R&D efficiency in developing new drugs. The result was the creation of a machine learning model that predicts the drug molecule pricing directly from the chemical formulas, and supports the structural attributes related to the different costs. So the impact was to allow the quickly molecule cost forecasting, and to define the cost driving structural features identification in such a way to support a faster data-driven R&D and budgeting decision processes. Another example, which is related to high precision automatic optimal inspection, in order to reduce or better to improve the quality of the production of electronic boards by reducing the defects. So the objective was to develop a very advanced automatic optical inspection system for fast and accurate PCB inspections, and to guarantee high precision, high speed optical inspection, and to allow in such a way to have a high quality control of electronic boards at production stage, increasing so the competitiveness of companies using this technology. I can refer, for example, to this as an example. In this case, we worked with a company. We defined from the beginning of a project, it was a startup, all the patent-related aspects. We agreed on the field of use for the company of the patents, on the royalties for the university, on the ownership of a patent, and we managed to file different patents. And the company, once we came to the running industrial prototype of a machine, managed to launch a fundraising initiative around A, and they managed to get $40 million funding to develop the company further. And the IP was for sure one of the relevant points we could rely on during this fundraising activity, which is now closed and is known since it was already published also in the press. Another and last example I show you is a project which was on developing an intelligent virtual assistant for anti-money laundering. It was again based on AI to detect fraudulent banking transactions. It optimizes the compliance strategies and reducing operating costs. It has been tested by the banks in our region, in Ticino. It's one of the cantons in Switzerland, and it enhances the ability of the regional financial sector to prevent money laundering and promoting more efficient and innovative use of data analysis technologies. By the way, this project was also recognized as a success story by InnoSwiss, which is the federal agency supporting applied research projects. So these are some examples of projects we developed at higher TRL levels with the companies, and where we also try to manage in the best way all knowledge valorization and IP aspects. And I would say that basically the key hints which have been given by the previous speaker are the right ones. So we try always to define all IP aspects at the beginning. We try to make clear who is the owner of results, which are the fields of use, and which are the royalties for the universities which contributes in developing the more strategic research knowledge. That's it from my side. I try to be fast, and of course, I'm happy to answer any question as far as needed.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, as well. We have a couple of minutes for some questions. I know Manon has been kindly answering a lot of those directly in the chat, which is fantastic. There are a couple of questions for Emmanuel. One question relating to why lots of brilliant examples we've just seen relating to the companies that that work with you and why they choose to specifically work with your university. So it's reputation, contacts, cluster collaborative networks. Would you like to
in our case, I'm happy to answer. In our case, we work mostly with companies in our region. So it's a little bit the Swiss model. The University of Applied Science are very strictly linked to their own cantons, the regions, and we work directly with the companies in our regions. Just to give you an idea about how this is relevant for us, we have to provide every year the average satisfaction rate of all the companies in the region which work with us to our regional government. So this is for us a key mandate, and we are also measured on the level of satisfaction of the companies which work with us. So we have a very strict relationship, and usually we work with the same companies from one project to the next one. So we have very clear relationships. We know their needs, we know their technology bottlenecks, and we are used to work together as a kind of, let's say, external R&D department for the SMEs, which cannot have a bigger R&D department inside their own company.
Thank you very much. And there's also a question about how research performance of scientists is measured at your institution, because there's an assumption that they can't publish all that's working on because of working with individual companies. Is there anything that you'd like to say regarding that?
I was just reading a question in the chat. I don't know. I can quickly answer. They are asking who's the owner of IP. No? In our case, the owner of IP is there is not a 100% defined rule, but most of the cases it's the company, since the company, of course, needs to exploit the IP, and usually it's in their own field of use. So we are free to use the IP in other fields of use for the benefit of other companies which are not competing. And the university has the invention rights. So we are recognized as inventors, we have royalties, and we are free to use the knowledge in other fields of use with different companies. So this for us is the best way so that the company can exploit the IP in its own field of use and be the owner of it, but we can have an added value in other fields of use with other companies which are not competing in the same sector. And we get royalties usually based on the added value of IP for the company. So, for example, in the case of a company producing machines, we have a fixed royalty on every machine sold. So it's very easy, let's say, to compute it. The company knows that the royalty is there only if they have a real added value, so they don't have to pay anything if there is no added value out of the IP, and they know they are free and they are owner in their field of use for the patent. So this is the basic principle we work on, which usually work quite well with the companies.
Thank you. That's really, really useful to know. And Mano, I know you've been answering lots of questions already. I think there was one in the chat regarding European IP templates. Is that something you want to say a few words on?
Yes, I mean, I would also mention an additional thing. So in terms of templates, there is a lot that can be covered. I've tried to send in some links here and there and to reply to people individually. When it comes to impact licensing, which I saw there were a couple of questions that covered this, I posted the link to the website. There is a toolkit, and you can use there some elements from the toolkit, including templates. You can also find some on the European IP Helpdesk website, not necessarily on impact licensing per se, but generally speaking. And what I forgot to mention, and I would like to mention, is that there is the IAM4RE project, which I also mentioned in the chat before, is a project that operationalizes knowledge valorization and brings tailored trainings and mentoring support on intellectual asset management and standardization, and generally speaking on knowledge valorization. And I'm about to post there a link because there is a call for expression of interest, which is open for research performing organizations and academic institutions to receive free of charge support services on knowledge valorization. So I'm about to post the link there. Don't miss the opportunity, because this is exactly operationalizing what we are talking about today. So please click the link and fill out the forms.
Thank you very much. We need to move on to our panel discussion next. So if there are questions for our speakers that they can continue to answer in the Q&A, I do encourage them to do that so we can try and answer as many questions as possible. But I would like to give a big thank you to both Manon and Manuel for those excellent presentations. Thank you very much. So now it is time for our panel discussion, and I'm very pleased to be handing over to Elizabeth Hajicek, who is Programme Manager at the Austrian National Contact Point for Intellectual Assets and Knowledge Valorization, and that's at FFG, which is the Austrian Research Promotion Agency. And Elizabeth's kindly offered to host. She's going to be hosting our panel discussion today and will introduce all our panelists. So Elizabeth, I'd like to hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen. I hope you can hear me okay. Yep. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here and to be moderating today's panel session on perspectives on knowledge valorization from across the ecosystem. And I'm joined by three speakers from academia, industry, and policy. First of all, I want to introduce Katrin Metzeler. She is the business and impact developer at Innovation Exchange Amsterdam, ICSA. Which is a combined knowledge transfer office of 4 Amsterdam institutions. In her current role as a business manager, she's supporting researchers with knowledge valorization through collaboration with industry, public organizations, and end users, and in particular with issues related to intellectual property management and finding ways to exploit their research results and bringing them to use in society. I'm also really welcome, Katrin. I'm also really pleased to be speaking to Philip Vanry. He is currently the head of the Brussels office and EU affairs for the University of Vaasa in Finland. He is international advisor for the Mecatech Advanced Manufacturing Cluster and innovation ecosystem expert for Deloitte and for the European Commission. And he was also the chair of the Horizon Europe Mutual Learning Exercise, the MLE, on knowledge valorization, which has already been mentioned by the European Commission today. Welcome, Philip. And last but not least, and very importantly, we're very happy to have a speaker from industry with us, Eduardo Beltran de Nanclares, and he's the Innovation and Technology Director of the Mondragon Corporation. He has more than 30 years of experience in technology and product development and innovation management in sectors such as automotive, household appliances, and capital goods. So we have representatives from very important sectors in the ecosystem here. And before we go into discussion, I just wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, Helen's already introduced the NCPIP. So I work for the FFG in the first place. This is the Austrian Research Promotion Agency. We are partner in the Inspiring Era project, but I'm here today for the NCPIP, which is the national contact point for knowledge valorization and intellectual assets. The NCPIP has been around for more than a decade. It is a national focused program, and it's a knowledge valorization intermediary, and as such supporting the professionalization of knowledge transfer by providing network opportunities, relevant tools, and other crucial resources. We deliver the program together with our partner, the AWS, that's the Austrian Promotional Bank. We are funded by 3 ministries, economics, innovation, and research. And there has been a government report in 2024 on knowledge valorization. So we have a very broad basis of broad mandate for our activities. And in line with the EC's focus, as we've already heard today, we have shifted our focus from the traditional tech transfer towards knowledge valorization, which is also reflected in a slight adaptation of our name. And yeah, we have done a lot of stakeholder engagement over the last few years in line with the rollout of the knowledge valorization guidelines. We've done a lot of stakeholder engagement, developed recommendations how to do that. So this is why I've been asked to moderate this session today. And I hope we can also discuss why knowledge valorization is so important at the moment. Again, Sylvia and Iro have mentioned some of this. 2024 was a bit of a year of reports in Europe. We had the Draghi report, we had the Heiter report, but we've also had the report on the knowledge valorization, Emily. And that leads me straight to my first question to our speaker, Philip, who is the policy representative here, and he brings that perspective. And if I summarize the takeaways from the knowledge valorization, Emily, in 2024, as a baseline, the takeaways were that the strategic enabling frameworks needed to be enhanced, skills, culture, and incentive needed to be improved, and the ecosystem collaboration and impact needed more attention. And if we now forward in light of the whole policy development in Europe with Horizon Europe and the new framework program coming up with the European Competitiveness Funds, all these policy reports that have been mentioned, what policy instruments or incentives could help move institutions towards a more systemic and long-term approach to knowledge valorization?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Elizabeth. Good morning, everyone. Yes, instead of making you a comprehensive summary of the Emily report that you will read, just sharing a few reflections that came after this exercise and aligned with recent evolution of reality of the market and strategies of policymakers. And really what we observed is that everyone was already, prior to Draghi and Letta's report, focused on that challenge of transforming knowledge into tangible socioeconomic results and impact. Considering that maybe the third mission, Manon mentioned this, was not always a priority, and this was very clear. And the first point of discussion was the strategy. And indeed, is there a strategy? And my question is both concerning member states, governmental organization, intermediaries and providers of knowledge, of intellectual knowledge, universities, academics, performers, but also the private sector. And surprisingly, there were very little member states, universities, corporation, where we could identify a comprehensive, smart, and modern and prioritized knowledge valorization strategy. Very often, when it existed, it was a vertical isolated pillar, not really interconnected with research infrastructure, with startup and scale-up and spin-offs, eventually with the alma mater strategy when we speak about universities. Or sometimes it was a gadget, a politically correct gadget with a small incubator in a corner of the campus, if I may say so. So all these things. And of course, we have seen fantastic development, including collaborative development. For example, you know how it is difficult to engage in true collaboration between universities in the same territory or in neighboring territories, but we have seen that member states that have not always been models of open collaboration have created joint knowledge valorization structures. Follow my eyes to one of the big leaders of our continent. We were also quite impressed by the fact that the way knowledge valorization strategies were prioritized, were funded, were subject of a participatory ex ante exercise of where do we go, what do we want, what other resources do we inject, at what level the knowledge valorization strategy is operating at the highest level. How is the connection with industry? Okay, of course, there is always, especially with University of Applied Science, technical universities, and all universities actually, a lot of emphasis on industry collaboration, industry university, but it's very often fragmented and not put as a key top priority of the organization. So all this were observed. We also discussed the critical mass effect. And Manon, you had a question about the financial sustainability of small KTOs in times and areas where the allocation of public support and funding is at stake. Indeed, how do we ensure that there is a critical mass of deal flow, of portfolio, and of expertise? Indeed, this is a key point, and guess what? One of the only route is joint collaboration between players in a very open ecosystem approach, not only TTOs, KTOs working together, but KTOs, TTOs working with non-university incubators, private sector accelerators, open innovation teams in large corporates, regional innovation agencies, etc., etc. By the way, there has been very few comments about the regional dimension of all this. Maybe a point to discuss. The collaboration with industry is absolutely key. We will hear from Eduardo later, but it was highlighted by some of the speakers. But this is the core of the future of knowledge valorization, even if generating of spin-offs is not the only route to valorize knowledge, but this is absolutely key. And I would like to take two examples of what I have spotted in Finland, which is really inspiring, is the University of Vaasa CODOC approach, which is basically co-funding doctoral students and postdocs between university and the industry. And then the Business Finland Veturi program, which is funding large multi-stakeholders ecosystem powered by a global industrial leader. So these are two examples that, by the way, DGRTD has spotted as good practice on how to unlock ecosystem. Last but not least, I have a lot of things to say, but maybe I stop here in my first answer, is the importance of having in-house financial instruments. Of course, we need to be clear. Knowledge valorization requires allocation of bigger public budgets. It is a major advocacy fight. There is no reason why between upstream and downstream there wouldn't be a better balance. So I'm not saying that we need to focus exclusively on applied things, but it needs to be taken seriously on board. If not, it will fail. That's clear. If there is no resources from the public side to improve, strengthen, accelerate this, it will fail. The guiding principle, the code of practice, any nice statement from member states will fail. The second is the availability of public-private early stage investment instruments. We see that a lot of successful cases are initiated by pre-seed or seed investment funds that are eventually co-owned by the producer of knowledge, the universities, but that are also a very interesting risk instrument that indeed later on, with all the criteria being met, and I agree with Manon, including the IP portfolio and the IP character of the innovation, will provide confidence to private and private-public more later stage investors and eventually public investment fund like the EIC. But this is of course key. And one point I want to say is that the KTO and the TTO is not the property of the School of Technology. Indeed, in Vasa, for example, in every possible transfer, we activate a small school which says everything. It's a school specialized in consumer behavior analysis. So they don't know anything about the tech, about the IP, but they provide as early as possible an enlightenment to the technology that is possibly transferred, about the market possible reaction to this new frontier or more conventional innovation. And the second one is, you mentioned living labs, Elizabeth and Ellen and several of you. There is a very inspiring, probably the biggest living lab on the planet, which is the ferry called Vasa Line between Sweden and Finland. Actually, this ferry is the first decarbonized maritime transport commercial vehicle, commercial ship. And actually the engine room is the daily 24/7 living lab of big industries, University of Applied Science, and the public authority that owns the company that is the ferry. And this is fantastic. Every month there is a small innovation that is possibly a transfer to who? To the co-owner of this. We don't call it living lab, we call it the Vasa Line. But also living labs have to be put at scale, and includes hardware components. It's not only about collaborative methodologies, it should also embark hardware. And I stop here for the moment, Elizabeth.
Thank you very much, Philip. And I'm taking away 3 points from, maybe, I hope I'm right, from what you said. I took away ownership as a topic you raised. Who owns the intellectual assets, maybe? Money or finance needs to be behind this whole endeavor of making knowledge valorization work, and collaboration, which is a nice segue actually to Eduardo Beltrán de Nanclares from the Mondrago Corporation, who has been engaging in collaborative activities for many years. And maybe before we go to a question, maybe you want to give us a little bit of a background about your activities, the activities of your corporation, how regional activities, as I understand it, and how this works in the context of knowledge valorization.
Yeah. Hello everybody, and thanks for inviting me. So a short overview of what is Mondragon. Mondragon is one of the biggest industrial group in Spain. So, but we have 4 divisions. So we have the industrial divisions with more than 35,000 workers, very diversified. We have retail divisions, finance divisions, but also we have a knowledge divisions. And inside the knowledge division, we have a private university and several technological centers. So what is important to know is that in Mondragon Corporation, we are more than 75,000 workers, different, very internationalized, and covering the 3 vertex of the knowledge triangle. So that is, so we have been working in this question of knowledge valorization and knowledge transfer several long time ago during a lot of years. So that is what is our background.
And you operate technology centers as part of your operation?
Yes, so I work at corporate level, and we have we have different technological centers that are open to third parties, not only to our industries, and even the Mondragon University as well, with different faculties, and in the domain of industry, different sectors as machine tool, components for automotive, components for appliances, and quite a lot of different sectors.
Excellent. So, I mean, it's great to have a speaker from industry. We've seen in the beginning, it's difficult to engage the business community at certain levels in this conversation. So it's really good to have you here from that point of view. And from your point of view, what is now the biggest barrier to engagement with the ecosystem? And what changes would make collaboration easier and faster? What have you learned in your experience?
Yes, to have, so apart from obviously some bureaucratic burdens and this kind of things, so I would say that mainly 4 barriers are, for our point of view, the most important. So the first one is the misaligned incentives between academia and industry. To sum up, the academia sometimes is most interested in publications, citations, fundamental knowledge versus new business, market impact, and applied solutions. That is something clear. So in other ways, in publications versus patents versus confidentiality. That is most. So this is the two ways of seeing the scene, and really to change, propose to solve this kind of problems. So some incentive systems in universities, for example, would be good just to reward industry cooperations, for example. That is the main barrier. Yeah. Second main barrier is the fragmented innovation ecosystems. So from the company point of view, what it would be good is to have a one-stop shop, to have a complete deal flow from the university, for example, no different departments, and even from the global and even at the regional level from the ecosystems. So that leads to the point to have a kind of a centralized innovation portals, or some regional innovation brokers, or some knowledge transfer office, or in the end, facilitate the access to this knowledge that is being developed. That is the second main barrier. Third is the technology readiness gap. What is the famous value of death? That means that many research outputs remains a low technology readiness level, while industry often needs high readiness technology level. So for solving that, we need to do some proof of concept, some demonstration programs, some pilot facilities to really to bridge this gap, the value of death. And for finishing, I would say that the fourth main barrier is the limited understanding of industry needs. That means that some companies feel that the research agents or research organizations don't know sufficiently the needs of or the real industry problems. So and it's really necessary to create some co-creation, to co-create the research agendas, to even the industry to participate in research governance of the universities and of the technological centers, and to have a long-term strategy instead of project by project collaboration. So that is, from my point of view, the fourth main barrier.
So if I can ask you, and I didn't prepare this answer, but because you said this now, that if it's difficult to engage industry at this level. I mean, we do see this again and again in this conversation that often the actors are just absent from these discussions. You have a lot of maybe small, medium enterprises, you have the startups, but the big industry players, we do often find it difficult to get them to the table in this discussion. And I think this is something probably the Commission can second as well. How do you engage them if the current engagement level, the current ways of trying to engage industry are not working because they feel this conversation is not their conversation, or what are the reasons?
Well, really more and more companies are seeing that this project by project cooperation are not the way really to improve and to gain competitiveness. So really, at least from our big companies, what is clear more and more is that we need long-term cooperation programs, and obviously adapted to the needs of the companies, and not with the same, for example, we have maybe afterwards we can talk a little bit about it, but we have a specific cooperation model with 7 blocks of activities that cover from research, transfer project, to joint entrepreneurship, even to joint marketing, talent recruitment. So that means that this long-term cooperation approach must fit into the daily way basis. So I think this is for big companies is clear. For small and medium companies, more and more they need to adapt to this long-term approach.
Thank you very much. Eduardo has mentioned KTOs, that they are needed in many different ways, and we've got a KTO with us who brings us the academia perspective. You come from University of Applied Science, and maybe it's important to sort of point out that obviously different universities, there are different university sectors, and you bring a different perspective that maybe the technical university or basic research university to the table. So what differentiates your institutions in that context, in your approach to knowledge valorization in the ecosystem? How do you go about creating knowledge and developing this further?
Yeah, hi, good morning. Thanks, Elizabeth, for the question. Indeed, I work for University of Applied Sciences in Amsterdam. We are a big University of Applied Sciences and have both the STEM and SHAPE disciplines, so the technical and the non-technical. Social science and humanities are quite strong here as well. And that explains why we, as a KTO, really are engaged in various ways of knowledge valorization. And by that, I mean, yes, we do deal with patents, but that is very, very limited, a limited part of our work. In fact, we have maybe a patent application in 2-3 years. One only, and that means that doesn't mean we don't have exploitation issues. So we of course deal a lot with the IP and the protection of IP in terms of data. Various forms have been mentioned before. But in that aspect, we still need to professionalize a lot more, because what is our IP? People are usually not aware at the beginning of the start of their research that they need to do work up front to be able to exploit it at the end. And so we deal with a lot of issues relating to IP at the end of the research. Yeah.
So the awareness of the activities around knowledge valorization, they need to be thought about early on, and this is part of your contribution to this exploitation process, right? In your case, knowledge valorization takes place through collaboration with industry, public organizations, and end users rather than just traditional spin-offs. From your experience, what could help researchers translate applied research into societal and economic impact better, apart from thinking about it early on in the research process?
Well, I think this is a lot also about giving them good examples. So I want to give you an example. We had a researcher who, in the field of cultural organizations, he developed a tool in order that enables cultural organizations to log all comments and discussions while events are taking place. And this tool was developed with research money. And he had made sure that in his consortium, he had also the end users, so the cultural organizations present. And hence he asked me at some point if I could help him transfer this tool from the University of Applied Sciences to the cultural organizations in a correct way, so also the legal issues, etc. Because we are University of Applied Sciences, it doesn't mean we can develop these tools and maintain these tools and keep them available all the time. That's not our mission, and we had to find the end users willing to take it over from us. So this is a typical trajectory where we come in and help the researchers who are willing to take this extra effort. To them, it's an extra effort, and they don't have much time and many resources, and sometimes also not the skills, the entrepreneurial skills, or even the way of thinking of transferring their results to others, end users or society. And we help them with that.
Excellent, thank you very much. If we think about the wider ecosystem, what do you, and maybe I can open this question to all three of you, what would be necessary to engage this broader ecosystem more in this knowledge valorization activities more systematically? And what would also help maybe bring in more societal actors beyond just universities and institutions that sort of primarily sort of in the focus of this now. Maybe Philip, if you want to come in here, if you have some ideas around this.
Yeah. Well, I think the word ecosystem is probably the most used keyword in all policy talks and innovation talks since a couple of years, and it's fair to say it's the right word. Is the right word. And indeed, there are so many very interesting experience and scheme where many stakeholders of diverse nature are working together in a better pace than before. And it's also true for knowledge valorization and this generation of socio-economic impact of the knowledge that is cultivated inside public, private, and academic organizations. Maybe one, of course, we have also seen the excess of multi-stakeholder involvement in, for example, open consultation on regional strategies. You end up with hundreds of players which all have something to say, but at the end, it reduces the efficiency of the participatory process. So there is a trade-off to find with the most competent and operational players. Maybe one channel that can generate the compromise and the consensus is to build on what we called in the MLE report the entrepreneurial discovery approach and mindset, which is not only about entrepreneurship, but which is developing the mindset of researchers that they behave as entrepreneurial bodies, and they think about the usefulness of it. And so both capturing this entrepreneurial discovery way of doing, of thinking, of collaborating, of looking at the societal impact, societal and / economical impact, short-term and long-term, is definitely something to follow. And that's also why, and the second point is, of course, there are conventional instruments, incubators, accelerators, entrepreneurship centers, entrepreneurship skills development center inside business school or inside school of technologies, etc., inside corporates, outside. There is a lot of offer about that, and it needs to be central to the process and the key players of knowledge valorization. It might also be just a way to improve the understanding of the way companies, industry, smart spin-off and startup and scale-up works. I agree with Sylvia and Lero. The startup and scale-up strategy is absolutely relevant to what we are talking about. Absolutely. Even though the spin-off generation is not the only route to valorize knowledge, but it is a culture, it is a mindset, it is a set of skills that even if the output is not a spin-off, is necessary to accelerate the generation of shared knowledge. And indeed, everything is there in the ecosystem, either in the territory where you live, where you operate, or in other territories. You can eventually collaborate with other experts, other platforms that can work with you. And around this, the competition, the price, there is a lot of instruments that can also stimulate and incentivize this ecosystem approach things. A last point, in the ecosystem, you have public authorities, by the way, who have still a very, very important role, not only in providing grants, but it's also a market. In the Emily report, there were two peripheric topics that we studied: the standardization matter that Lero pointed out, but also the innovation public procurement market as a possible traction for POCs, for protos, for test beds, a kind of public sector open innovation test bed, if I would say, maybe a new program we can invent today. This is also something that is sometimes a bit not well understood by technological circles in knowledge producers environment.
So there's definitely a big role for the policy actors to play, and they obviously have, given the number of reports and the documents that are circulating at the moment, this is a topic on top of their mind. But what you're saying is there need to be concrete contribution to the ecosystem, such like grants and other elements they can bring to the ecosystem to make it run more smoothly. I think we have to go to Q&A. I hope there are some questions. Helen, I don't know if you have an eye on them. I personally haven't. But maybe, Katrin, from your side, because you come from a university, and also Eduardo, it strikes me that this entrepreneurial mindset that has been mentioned by Philip and in the Emily is something that maybe is something that has to be also taken up by the universities in their teaching, and sort of maybe not viewing universities just as the ones that deliver the research, but also other aspects of what's needed in the knowledge valorization ecosystem. Do you maybe have a position on that?
Yeah, sure. I was I'm happy for that question. I tend to avoid using the word entrepreneurship, because people then get the feeling that I want to push them into the direction of spin-offs. What I do want is for researchers to realize that whatever their know-how, the way their know-how can be used is usually in the form of a service, and running that service will bring costs with them. So I want them at some point to realize that there is a business case. I don't want to push that to them. I just want them to realize that while offering their service, at some point it might be useful to start up a company, and then we take it from there. But it's a very, very fine line to balance on. I have the feeling lots of researchers don't want to be entrepreneurs. They want to be researchers. I often recommend them to also then get people on board that have more entrepreneurial skills, but this is all something that's developing very slowly, but we're on the good track.
Excellent. And Eduardo?
Well, just the entrepreneurship logically is a key point. So we, in fact, to give you an example, so in the University of Mondragon years ago, launched a pioneer degree focused specifically in entrepreneurship. So we have the only degree, a university degree in Spain focused on entrepreneurship. Because we realized that we need this kind of profile just to launch new business. So, but these entrepreneurs, they need a landscape, yes, together with the, from my point of view, 4 main elements that I'm going to really just to mention. That is, so we need intermediary organizations and innovation brokers, which is important to have because typically between the university and research and the companies, so we need this kind of innovation hubs, clusters, so that could act as a bridge between research institution and companies. That is one main elements. The entrepreneurs must have all the elements, and it's key. So co-creation and living labs model. So we have several examples in Mondragon that, so collaborative, we need some collaborative environments, living labs, pilot projects, these workshops, put together people with different cultures and so on and so forth, just in order to co-create and to have common goals, a common understanding of the technology. Key point in public-private cooperation in order to fund these initiatives. Regional innovation hubs, collaborative research programs are key elements. So that is the third point. So that means tools for funds, this kind of projects, and for finance or new ways of access finance as well. So venture capital. So we have an internal in Mondragon, Mondragon Ventures, which is a risk capital fund for finance this kind of initiatives, but also venture client approaches and so on and so forth. So this really, so we need entrepreneurs, but we need a kind of ecosystem with important elements to come up with new ventures, with new initiatives.
Thank you very much. I can see Helen is coming here. We probably have to close now. Thank you very much for your contribution. This has, I think, illustrated quite well the different perspectives that are in the ecosystem, what is needed. We did not end just that funding is needed, but funding clearly is important, new ways of funding this and good collaboration between the different actors. Thank you very much for being part of this discussion. Helen, I'm not sure there are questions in the chat.
No, well, there's perhaps questions that we could just have a look at. So I'm just having a look now.
No.
There was a question about one of the, I think it was the Emily report, I think the mutual learning exercise report. So I think the links in that are earlier on in the day, but perhaps one of my colleagues can find the link to that and post that in the chat again. So yes, it sounds like Emily, but it's actually Emily.
Well, thank you anyway.
Right.
And I'll hand back over to you.
Thank you very much. everyone. So thank you very much to all our panelists and Elizabeth for that really interesting discussion. So yes, it is time to bring the event to a close. So before we finish, I've just got a few final bits of information for you all, and of course, some thank yous. So first, we would really appreciate your feedback about today. We have a very short evaluation form. It will only take a minute to complete and will really help us to design future events. And my colleague has put a link to that in the chat. A reminder as well, we'll be sending you all, everyone who registered, everyone in the audience, a link to where you can find all the event materials. So that's the recording, the PowerPoints, as well as useful links that have been posted today. So we'll get that in the next few days. So keep an eye on your inbox. Also, if you'd like to stay updated on future events and developments within the European research area, you're very welcome to join the ERA community via the Inspiring ERA website. And again, the link is in the chat. And also want to mention the online survey that Inspiring ERA is currently conducting. So we're trying to better understand from stakeholders like yourselves how research is translated into practice, what works well, what additional support is required. And those results will be shared with the European Commission to help inform future policy discussions. So please do take the opportunity just to share your views on that. I think we're keeping it open until the 20th of March. And again, we've put a link in the chat. And finally, just a few thank yous. I'd like to thank all our speakers for their excellent and informative contributions today. Elizabeth, for your excellent moderation of the panel discussion, as well as UAS for Europe for their contribution and collaboration in organising this event today. And of course, I'd like to thank you all in the audience for your joining today and for all your participation. We hope to see you at a future Inspiring ERA event. And so thank you very much and goodbye. Thank you.